Making headlines for this week of March 24th. Online espionage. CIA the target of more leaks revealing agencies' hacking of iPhone and Apple products. Inside war. Allegedly upset over FBI's delays to act on Pedogate, the New York Police Department is rumored to be starting its own leaks of Anthony Weiner's confiscated laptop. Pharma death. In the rush to create synthetic cannabis products for profit, one company has now caused the death of a patient. And the plan for 5G, next generation communications network believed to be dangerous, if not deadly, for humanity.
With news around, upon, within, and beyond our planet, the program making disclosure official. This is Cosmic Vision News. Here is Jeffrey West.
Greetings and blessings to all. It seems that the CIA just cannot catch a break these days, and this would be a very good thing, by the way. More information continues to be revealed about how extensively the CIA has been able to quietly but very successfully infiltrate virtually every Western home and almost every citizen around the world who uses technology in his or her life. On March 23rd, Press TV has reported that whistleblower website WikiLeaks has claimed the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency has been hacking Apple products to spy on their owners. The new WikiLeaks release, called Vault 7 Dark Matter, was released on March 23rd. It described a handful of programs that the CIA has apparently used for nearly a decade, in some cases to surreptitiously or secretly monitor Apple device owners. It also claimed that another bug called Night Skies 1.2, a beacon loader implant tool, has been specifically made for iPhones. The bug that runs in the background provides the CIA with command and control capabilities. WikiLeaks said the malware has been installed on factory-fresh devices since at least 2008 for surveillance. The website believes it's possible the CIA had redirected iPhone shipments to install the tool. This could really open the door for a few lawyers wanting to break into the big leagues while doing something good for humanity. A huge class action lawsuit could be filed against Apple, perhaps for participating directly or indirectly in this scheme. They would likely argue, Apple would likely argue that is, that they had no part of it, but the fact is, a captain always goes down with the ship. If Apple has been used and their customers have been violated, then those customers deserve to be compensated, and it is up to Apple to take the issue to the courts with the CIA. RT offered a bit more in its story about the Night Skies malware. The RT article reported that WikiLeaks has revealed the CIA's alleged ability to infiltrate and control iPhones through this tool called Night Skies, which is physically installed onto factory-fresh iPhones and allows the CIA to monitor and download files from targets' phones undetected. Night Skies works in the background and grants full remote command and control to the CIA, allowing it to upload and download files from iPhones, including details from the owner's phone book, text messages, and call logs, and to execute actions on the phones as it wishes. A 2008 document featured in the release explains that Night Skies version 1.2 must be physically installed and will only start beaconing information once the user starts to use the phone. The article also added this: Night Skies is made up of 3 components: an implant, a listening post, and a post-processing program. The implant runs undetected on the phone once it has been physically installed. The CIA monitors the phone for activity, including its browser history file, YouTube video cache, or mail metadata. Once it is used for the first time, Night Skies kicks in and sends information to a pre-configured LP. LPs are used to monitor devices such as computers and phones which have been hacked with the CIA's malware implants. They can be physical or virtual and stored on a CIA computer server. What this means, according to the article, is this. The revelation that the CIA is physically infiltrating factory fresh phones suggests it has accessed the organization's supply chain, meaning they may be accessing phones as they are shipped to targets, with CIA agents or assets physically tampering with suspects' phones before they even receive them. WikiLeaks has already revealed that the CIA has been responsible for the creation of Daesh, also known as ISIS, back in November of 2016. Of course, there are also the many revelations coming out now related to elitist pedophilia, a scandal now being labeled as Pedogate. This will not be a surprise to many listeners that this has been done, but it may surprise some as to how extensively this operation has been carried out. As it is now finally being witnessed by people around the planet, massive operations of enslavement of the human population are now being exposed on multiple levels. Edward Morgan, in a March 24th article appearing on the prepareforchange.net website, observes that the enslavement paradigm is crashing. Morgan writes, all signs point to the total collapse of the enslavement system. Organized religions, organized cults, ruling elites, corrupted justice system, fiat money, shadow government, and all lower frequency ways of living. The dominoes have been started. A higher dimensional world is taking shape and physically manifesting. The mass mind control is rapidly breaking down. Once the transition is fully completed, you can look forward to nothing but awesomeness. Coming up later in technology news, I will look at one other tool this global cabal had been hoping to use to help further harm humanity and keep them enslaved to illness and disease. Many who are just beginning to hear about all this will no doubt have a hard time grasping that they have been enslaved. They have grown up believing that they live in a so-called free country, but to find out the truth will be mind-blowing for many and even traumatic for others. What does Morgan mean exactly by the enslavement system? He defines it this way. 1. Controlling systems through laws and regulations. 2. Religions filled with lies and deceptions which have resulted in many wars and deaths of billions. 3. Money, debt, and banking systems. 4. Finance and economic systems. 5. Trading and commerce systems. 6. Import and export systems. 7. Corruption and deception systems through threats, briberies, and propaganda. 8. Mind control through implants, frequency, weapons, and etheric manipulation. And 9, and so on. As he suggests, there are many other examples. I would also add that one of the enslavement tools is the legal system, which enslaves humans as corporate fiction entities to a system of commercial rules given the force of law. As we are now witnessing, all of these systems are beginning to crash, and I count myself among the many thousands who are eager and excited to finally see these systems shut down and removed once and for all, even if it means some short-term chaos, disruption, and discomfort in my life. I personally will gladly take a few weeks or even a few months of discomfort and disruption if it will mean that I get to live the rest of my life as a free human being. The global cabal is desperately trying everything in their power to protect all of these systems of enslavement, but nothing is working at this time. Many may now ask, so if all this crashes, what will replace it? What can we look forward to? This still remains to be seen because anything that does happen, how it happens, when it happens, and why it happens will depend upon a very complicated mix of human energies moving between fear and love. Morgan offers, however, a list of potential domino effects of change that are to come. Number 1, a new financial structure. 2, the global cabal loses their control of their network and their pyramid crumbles quickly. 3, no more cabal creating money from thin air and manipulating people into debt slavery. Number 4, release people of debt and slavery to money and he refers to various programs or systems that have been described by some as Nisara or Gesara or Ubuntu. Number 5, major rise in frequency and consciousness as the suppressed energy release into the magnetic field. Number 6, a release or rediscover different advanced hidden technologies. They most likely will be using free energy or some no pollution resources. Number 7, galactic disclosure worldwide. A ton of truth will come out, everything from where we originated from, to who created different humans, races, and their bodies, to our DNA and our connection to different star systems of our true ancestors. Number 8, we become galactic beings in the physical and get to explore space in mass number. Number 9, we become guardians for this solar system and join into the galactic community. And number 10, we bid goodbye to what is known as duality consciousness on Earth. Meg Benedicte, a noted pioneer in quantum healing and sacred geometry, among other things, is quoted in this article as saying that we are at the brink of a new age, an age of hope and reconstruction. At the epicenter of this new age is a heartwarming movement of human empathy and unified vision. We are no longer satisfied with building up our egos and feeding the insatiable beast inside. As the world financial and governing systems collapse under the pressure for change, a new hope arises. For those who are awakening from centuries of excessive consumption and spiritual disconnection, the universe has provided a perfect storm for massive human evolution. In a separate article by Benedicte, she shares the significance of this recent equinox portal energy that we just passed through. She notes, as have many others, that the initial shift began back in December of 2012, and since then, many have been awakening and answering the call to help break down and defeat this enslavement matrix. Benedicte writes that the coming equinox, Stargate, acts as a threshold point for Gaia and humanity to pass through the multidimensional eye of the needle. As we shed lower vibratory density, our souls rise in harmony with the newly birthed fifth-dimensional Gaia. It is the final hour for the dark forces. They cannot access or survive in the higher planes of unity consciousness. We are witnessing their final defiant act of survival. In a second article, Benedicte explains where we are now on the other side of this March 20th equinox portal. She writes, the equinox Stargate exits in zero-point energy, the balancing point of polarized forces when light and dark are equal. The galactic center also radiates zero-point energy between our dark universe and the parallel crystalline universe of light. These threshold points exist as doorways into vastly different realms. As Gaia rises into higher bandwidths of photonic light consciousness, the veils of illusion dissolve away. The threat of archonic manipulation is losing power. The plasma fields are distorting shadow programming into absurdity. It has diminishing influence over the conscious community. Simon Parkes, a lifelong explorer of extraterrestrial activity who had family members working within various security branches of the UK government, recently appeared on Wolf Spirit Radio. Near the end of the interview, Parkes discusses the shift we are now moving through.
What's been going on, Simon, in the real-time thing that is supposed to be kind of unfolding at this moment?
There's no suppose about it. Let me make that clear. It is really happening. I've said between the 15th and 24th of March, there's a great deal taking place. And I'm not the only one to have said that. A number of commentators who I've never met have also independently given those dates or around about those dates. So I'm just, through my own communications, mirroring or reflecting and pushing forward a similar timescale. There is a great deal taking place now between the 15th and the 24th, just because there isn't a firework display, just because a big flying saucer hasn't arrived or the ground hasn't opened up. Doesn't mean it's happening. There are many, many psychic people who feel it they feel something. They can't put their finger on it, but they can feel things are happening, and maybe they are being interfered with. They may be not sleeping properly or whatever's happening, but many people are picking this up. Now, what's happening is that the negative people are battling at the moment with the changes of energy that are occurring. They've always tried to steal the good energy and take it for themselves. But as that energy vibration increases, they find it increasingly hard to use it and work with that energy. They can't. I am expecting some reasonably serious financial situations quite soon to occur from this timescale. So from these 2 weeks, the middle of March, the actions that are going to occur in this time period will feed through to a very physical reality fairly soon. So when these things happen, you will be able to trace them back to this middle March period. Let's remind everybody, on end of December 2012, there was undoubtedly a very important shift. But so many well-meaning and believing people who were still on their early days of their own personal journey were desperately disappointed because they expected to see something. And I say to people in all love, what did you expect to see? And they would say, well, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, a volcano erupting, or a big star display, a light display, or it becoming as bright as day at 2 o'clock in the morning or something. And I say to them, you're still looking for physical signs. What you've got to do is to look inside yourself and feel the energy. We feel the displacement in the Earth's consciousness. And when you feel that, you know that the Earth is changing. And we know the Earth changed at that point for the better. And we know things happen, and there are great influxes of energy. We know it because our sleeping patterns get put out. We change what we eat. So this time is very, very important, and the effects that we are going to see physically fairly soon now can be traced to this time. The elite know it. That's why we're being chemtrailed crazily. They're upping, I said earlier, before this question came in, they're upping their game because we are in this final process. So it is a very important time, and, we've just got to hold on.
What remains to be seen is how quickly this enslavement matrix will continue to crash, and how quickly the new paradigm will come into being. And this will depend upon all humans and the vibrations they choose to hold in these current moments of now. In other geopolitical news, but continuing along the theme relating to what is called the deep state, an article by author Charles Hugh Smith, appearing on his blog site, shares his insights as to why he believes the deep state is now crumbling. He writes, "The New Yorker is right about one thing. The deep state is not a conspiracy. It is a vast machine of control that is largely impervious to the views or demands of elected representatives or the American people. The key to understanding this social, political, economic control is to grasp that control of the narratives, expertise, and authority is control of everything. Both senior elected officials and senior state administrators must rely on narratives, expertise, and authority because they have insufficient time and experience to do original research and assessment. Politicos and senior administrators rely on expertise and authority as the basis of deciding whether something is accurate and actionable. We can now define the deep state with some precision. The deep state is fundamentally the public-private centralized nodes that collect, archive, and curate dominant narratives and their supporting evidence, and disseminate these narratives and their implicit teleologies to the public via the media and to the state agencies via formal and informal interdepartmental communication channels. By gaining control of the narratives, evidence, curation, and teleology, each node concentrates power. The power to edit out whatever bits contradict the dominant narrative is the source of power. For once the contradictory evidence is buried or expunged, it ceases to exist. Hugh Smith continues, The primary claim of each deep state node is that its expertise and authority cannot be questioned. This is why the deep state is fracturing. The expertise and authority of its nodes are delaminating because its narratives no longer align with the evidence. Once the legitimacy of the expertise and authority is questioned, control of the narrative is imperiled. This is why the deep state is in turmoil. Its narratives no longer make sense or are in direct conflict with other nodes' narratives or have been delegitimized by widening gaps between definitive claims and actual evidence. There is indeed a deep state, but its control of dominant narratives and thus its source of control and power is crumbling. The gap between the narratives and the evidence that supports them has widened to the point of collapse. We are witnessing this with the Pedogate investigation into Anthony Weiner, the estranged husband of Huma Abedin, the co-chair for Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential campaign. Weiner's laptop had been seized by the New York Police Department, but one article is claiming that the NYPD made a copy of the laptop's contents in case the FBI did not do its job in leaking the information. Quoting a source known as Victoris Libertas, this article on the ForbiddenKnowledgeTV.net website reports the following. NYPD detectives, along with select FBI agents who are sick of the stonewalling of FBI Director Comey and the brass at FBI and CIA, have started leaking information on their investigation into Anthony Weiner's laptop. Among other things, we have learned from our insider that the Clintons and other politicians were engaged in money laundering, child exploitation, sex crimes with minors, perjury, pay to play through the Clinton Foundation, obstruction of justice, and other felony crimes. The quote continues, "Nobody is above the law," said one source. "The file has enough names to leave D.C. a ghost town or a supermax prison." According to one detective, "You literally have a third of the politicians dirty or worse," said one detective. Our source is a reporter in New York City, and from what we know so far, 4 detectives have begun leaking the information, and there will be clear connections made between Schumer, Weiner, Epstein, Dershowitz, Williams, and Hillary Clinton, and more. The NYPD has had it with Comey and his brass. Expect a flood of leaks immediately. Our source said it's already begun. Comey was not getting off easily from his hook, however, during his testimony in Washington over alleged Russian interference in the U.S. election and Hillary Clinton's email server. 2 videos will be posted in the show's summary transcript for this story for those choosing to view them. Due to time limitations this week, I'm going to add a section to the show transcript and summary that has links to 5 other stories that may have some significance in the near future, but could not be included in this newscast. Story 1 relates to the people of Macedonia rebelling against the EU leadership for meddling in the affairs of their country. Another story looks at Poland and its possible situation of having to face an influx of migrants from Ukraine. A third story reports on a comprehensive partnership that has been struck between China and Israel. The fourth looks at a strategic cooperation between Russia and China in the Arctic. And the fifth story reports on the visit by Iraqi PM Abadi to the U.S. White House on March 20th. In one short financial news story for this week, now that China has its currency added to the IMF basket of currencies, opened its Shanghai Gold Exchange, and significantly boosted its gold reserves, the movement was then to get as many countries to begin embracing the replacement financial paradigm for the dying fiat currency fractional reserve system of debt-based banking. It has been speculated that in launching its Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, or AIIB, China was informing all potential members that would want to join that they will be required to participate in the new gold-backed financial paradigm. In another sign that appears to suggest a movement away from the US dollar and from the US in general, Press TV reported on March 24th that the AIIB announced in a statement posted on its website that it was the first time that it welcomed new members since its inception. The newcomers include 5 regional states such as Hong Kong, Afghanistan, Fiji, Timor-Leste, and Armenia, as well as 8 non-Asian countries, including Canada, Belgium, Hungary, Ireland, Peru, Venezuela, the Republic of Sudan, and Ethiopia. It was almost exactly 2 years ago that China offered countries to become founding members of the AIIB, an offer that was accepted by approximately 55 to 57 countries. With the addition of new members, whose status will not likely be the same as the founding members, the total participating countries comes to about 70, including many U.S. allies. Certain interests within the U.S. continue to be fearful of the growing influence of China, along with the BRICS alliance of countries and the growing list of countries seeking to join various Asian alliances ahead of the launch of the well-known One Belt, One Road, or the new Silk Road economic trading route. Links to several other articles with more background information regarding the AIIB will be found in the show transcript summary for this story. In general news, longtime listeners are very much aware of the dangers of Big Pharma, the conglomerate of pharmaceutical companies that are in the business of profit and not the business of health. An article appearing on the Cannabis Connections website on March 18th reports on how Big Pharma is attempting to rush the introduction of synthetic cannabis, and this rush is causing harm. The research is becoming overwhelming to show the benefits of cannabis in treating an increasing number of ailments in the human body. The article writes that the endogenous cannabinoid system, or ECS, discovered by scientists unafraid of studying marijuana, is made of endocannabinoids, and their receptors, which are found throughout the body, in the brain, organs, connective tissues, glands, and immune cells. The goal of the ECS is to maintain homeostasis within your body. Of course, the lifestyle that has been sold and marketed to the people of the Western world, especially, is not one that promotes homeostasis, or balance within the body. In fact, one may argue that it creates the exact opposite. The article continues, identifying the benefits of cannabis while also stating that these benefits have also received the attention of the pharmaceutical industry, which is likely interested in profiting from said benefits. The thing about cannabis, however, is that it doesn't need Big Pharma to produce it, package it, and distribute, as it can grow in your backyard. But when government-connected industries wish to shut out their competition, which in this case is a plant, they lean on the state's ability to stifle competition through claiming a right to the intellectual property behind a particular set of ingredients, otherwise known as a patent. Since no one can patent a wild plant, pharmaceutical industries turn to their labs and chemistry to recreate nature. The article does reference one drug called Marinol, offered by Solvay Pharmaceuticals, and is almost identical in molecular structure as the THC molecule and has similar effects, but does not grow on a plant. Here is where the risk becomes dangerous. The article closes with the following. This impulse to exclusively own the rights to life-saving medicines is nothing new. However, with the ever-increasing scientific data showing the miraculous effects of cannabis on healing the human body, Big Pharma is hurriedly attempting to imitate these same effects in their labs. This haste is proving to be deadly, at least in one example in France. According to Ouest France, a recent test conducted by BioTrial on behalf of the Portuguese pharmaceutical company Biol has left 6 people hospitalized in Rennes. One of those 6 people was declared clinically dead at the University Hospital of Rennes last week. This is why it is becoming increasingly important to critically question any government-issued cannabis product or any product issued by a pharmaceutical company. The key point to remember is that any product issued by a pharmaceutical company is not going to create health, because pharmaceuticals are in the business of shareholder profits, and thus it is not in their shareholders' interests to create a product that actually makes people healthy. This is also why it is up to individuals to learn more about what can heal them and to start taking personal and active steps towards their own healing by connecting to and supporting networks that will push and fight for the rights of all people to grow their own health products as well as their own food so that they can support their own health. As we just heard, there are corporations that are putting profits ahead of the health of humanity and the planet. It is a sad reality in a corporate paradigm of business, and also sad is the actions of powerful corporations that are driving smaller companies out of business. However, the news does not have to be all bad. In the past, when people were told that their choices to simply stop shopping at a certain store or to stop using a certain product could help send a message, many people did not believe that their simple choice could possibly have an impact. Yet, the times are truly changing. What we are witnessing today, however, is that many companies are now making changes because they are seeing firsthand the consequences of thousands of individual choices to change the way they shop or where they shop. One such example comes from the Rise of the Vegan.com website on March 18th. This article shares the impact that one dairy company has experienced due to the decrease in the consumption of milk. The article writes that Elmhurst Dairy in Queens, New York has ceased its dairy operation after 90 years, citing decreased consumer or customer demand. CEO Henry Schwartz said the company has been operating at a high cost in recent years and revealed that pasteurized fluid milk has sort of gone out of style. We are unable to continue to go on without ongoing losses. The article continues. The shutdown reflects ongoing trends in the dairy milk business, increased consumer awareness of the treatment of cows in the milk industry, as well as a consumer concern about saturated fat, cholesterol, and hormones, as well as pasteurization, is causing year-on-year declining sales. Now, this may sound like bad news for the company. However, any company that can see the opportunities within the changing consumer landscape can adapt and change successfully. Elmhurst may just be an example of such a successful shift by recognizing the changing needs of its customers. According to the article, however, the declining demand for cow milk has led to a growth explosion for plant-based milks. So, Elmhurst Dairy has dropped the dairy and renamed to simply Elmhurst, and will instead produce their own range of healthy plant-based milks. The whole range are suitable for vegans and have very minimal ingredients. Schwartz says their new range has up to 4 times more nuts per serving than other leading brands and will be available in 4 varieties: almond, hazelnut, cashew, and walnut. Each contains only raw, cold milled nuts and simple ingredients. No emulsifiers, thickeners, whiteners, or frankenfood proteins are used. As CVN has reported previously, humans are the only species to consume milk into adulthood. The dairy industry has lobbied the U.S. government to include milk into one of the essential 4 food groups, even though cow milk is not very compatible to the human body. The milk from goats, for example, is biologically more compatible for the human body. As well, the mistreatment of animals combined with the pesticides and hormones being consumed by cows and transferred into the milk is causing many to shun the dairy industry. The CEOs and the companies that are observing this trend are the ones who will adapt their companies, their products, and their services to meet the growing demand that has been demonstrated by informed consumers who are learning to exert their power in their shopping. It is this same kind of pressure that is building on companies like Monsanto and food stores that are moving away from products that are known to be harmful or that come from tortured animals. The lifting of one's consciousness leads to an increased awareness of all that is going on, which leads to informed choices, actions, and yes, even informed resistance to the structures that are preventing health and peace in our world. Gratitude goes to all of you who are helping to create change with your informed choices on whatever levels you are able to make them. Over to technology-related news, and since health seems to be the general theme this week, it is perhaps time to look at some upcoming technology that is not being fully explained to the people. Everyone loves their devices, be they laptops, tablets, iPhones, smartphones, or whatever other way they can get their addictions satisfied or fulfill their zombie lifestyle. I am the first to admit that I have an addiction to my laptop. In my defense, however, I will also say that I realize I have this addiction, but that I am also using my addiction to help create a world where we will no longer need to be addicted to technology, because we will have removed all the people, all the companies, and all the technologies that are ultimately harmful to humanity and the planet. I personally would prefer not to spend so much time on this device and would like to find more enjoyable ways to exist without the computer, but unfortunately we are at war with a group of people who are seeking great harm to humanity and the planet, and thus many of us are called to use our addictions for a greater service. That is the story I like to tell myself, however, to justify my addiction. Did you notice my ego sneaking in there? That is how sneaky our egos are. One of the next up-and-coming dangers facing humanity is going to be the next generation of phone networks, known as 5G. While everyone will rave about how much faster it might be or that it will improve their businesses, it really means nothing if everyone is dead. This is how brainwashed the masses have become, that they willingly allow themselves to be led to the slaughterhouse while truly enjoying the trip there, having no idea what awaits at the end. It might help to first understand what the key differences between each of the networks have been so far: 1G, 2G, 3G, and now 4G. A video on YouTube, which will be in the transcript, identifies each network as follows. The 1G network was developed in the 1970s, and this signal averaged between 4,800 and 9,600 bits per second, also known as BPS, and that is a small letter B, PS. The signal was continuous in amplitude and time, but the signal could be disrupted over long distances. There was also poor voice quality and a limited capacity, among other things. With the rapidly advancing expansion of the Internet, a 2G network was introduced first in Europe in the early 1990s. There were various enhancements that improved the function of 2G over the aging 1G network. However, the Internet, along with fax, texting, and data transmission requirements, even this network was going to be stressed heavily right from the beginning. There were two accepted standards for 2G, or second-generation technology. One was the TDMA, or Time Division Multiple Access, or number two, the CDMA, Code Division Multiple Access. A few of the major drawbacks to 2G: spotty coverage, unable to support video transmissions, cell towers had a limited coverage area, and calls would be dropped off abruptly. With the introduction of the third generation, or 3G network, this network had the ability to transfer voice data and non-voice data, such as music, emails, and instant messaging over the same network simultaneously. The network delivered broadband capacity at a lower cost than 2G. 3G offered less complexity, faster transmission, and a large capacity. 3G allows the transmission of 384 kilobits per second. Recall that 1G could only transmit between 4 to 10 kilobits per second, and now 3G is offering 384 kilobits per second. That is 384,000 bits per second. 4G is defined in this video as being magic. It is a mobile multimedia connection, anywhere, anytime, with anyone. Global mobility support with integrated wireless solutions and customized personal services that can transport data at 20 to 100 megabits per second, suitable for high-res movies and television. Although this is not exactly relevant to the story, I offer this next piece of information purely to help people grasp and understand transfer rates of information. In the beginning, there was BPS, or bits per second. This was identified by all the small letters in lowercase BPS. Then came the term bytes. 1 byte is equal to 8 bits. This was identified by an uppercase B followed by the PS per second. An article on the lifewire.com website explains that 1 kilobyte per second equals 8 kilobits per second. 1 megabyte per second equals 8 megabits per second, and 1 gigabyte per second equals 8 gigabits per second. To avoid confusion between bits and bytes, networking professionals always refer to network connection speeds in terms of the lowercase BPS, the bits per second ratings. Of course, this is just to get people addicted to the technology that this leads up to the introduction of 5G. Whereas 4G may have been considered magic, 5G is very likely going to be deadly for many. One article posted on the StepNews.com website notes the following about 5G. While it's not for public use yet and is still being tested, it is anticipated that within the next 10 years, most U.S. wireless carriers will be connected to 5G. This new technology promises to bring 10 to 50 times faster speeds for data consumption. The article, however, also points out how wireless technologies have not been truly tested for their effects on the human body. For a 5G network to be rolled out, there will need to be many, many more cell towers than the current 200,000 towers that are in place around the U.S. The article notes that the industry maintains that 5G technology is safe, but there have been many studies linking cell phone usage and radiation and cancer. In a study using rats, cell phone radiation increased the levels of brain cancer as well as heart tumors, which is a rare disease. The higher the radiation exposure, the higher the risk. An article on the globalfreedommovement.org website reports on how the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC in the U.S., was deliberately avoiding questions about the potential dangers of 5G. This article notes that there have been thousands of published peer-reviewed studies that indicate the proliferation of microwave or wireless technologies and that it is not safe to biological life. Links to 4 of those studies will appear in the show transcript and summary for this story. Dave Hodges of the CommonSenseShow.com website calls a spade by saying very clearly the new 5G network is deadly. A personal friend of mine who is trained as a physicist and who has worked in the past with a former Russian weapons physicist has informed me that the Russians are very aware of the dangers of the 5G network because this new network will operate in the frequency range of 20 to 100 gigahertz. According to my friend, the human brain is very sensitive in the frequency range of 30 to 60 gigahertz. Now, the new Ericsson 5G telecom Internet of Things will operate at 20 to 100 gigahertz. My friend informs me that the atmospheric Van Allen belts protect the Earth from the very same frequencies that this new network will be exploiting. An article appearing on the SOT.net Sign of the Times website validates this with the following headline: 5G networks will use the same frequencies as pain-inflicting crowd control weapons. As well, Deborah Lee Davis, founding director of the Board on Environmental Studies and Toxicology of the U.S. National Research Council, National Academy of Sciences, founding director of the Center for Environmental Oncology at the University of Pittsburgh Cancer Institute, says that the 5G wavelengths used in IoT have never been tested for health effects and may adversely impact our skin and sweat glands.
I'm Dr. Deborah Davis, and I'm here to talk with you today about the 5G that Environmental Health Trust is quite concerned about. This is a network that's being rolled out all over the country that will involve thousands of antennas. I love my devices as much as anyone else, but I don't want to put the health of my grandchildren at risk. I don't want to put them in harm's way. And we now know that the skin, our largest organ, does respond to 5G. And in fact, we have in our sweat ducts, they can act as antennas that can receive signals. Now, this has not been tested for safety. The fact that it can interact with our sweat ducts may have much more profound meanings for our overall health and well-being. The idea that we're going to saturate this country with a network that has never been tested is appalling. And I am joining with many other scientists from around the world now to express concerns and to say we must evaluate these things before we roll out the technology. No matter how attractive it is for us to have faster downloads of video games, pornography, or virtual reality, the question we have to ask ourselves, is it worth endangering the health of our children to do that? For more information about this and other environmental health issues, please look at our website, ehtrust.org. Thank you.
The Environmental Health Trust website just mentioned by Davis will be in the show transcript and summary. On the website, there was this report on cell phone health by Wendy Mesley of Canada's CBC News.
Berkeley, California, a city famous for challenging the status quo. The first to ban smoking in restaurants, and now they're taking on the cell phone industry. With signs like these telling people if you carry your phone in a pocket or in your bra, you may be exposed to radiation levels above the limit.
The city is in a new battle over what it can say about cell phones and your cancer risk.
The cell phone industry has taken Berkeley to court over those signs, arguing they're alarmist.
All we've done is to make sure that consumers are aware of this basis.
The fight is expected to go all the way to the Supreme Court.
They say that that message is baseless, that you have no scientific proof that there's any safety concern.
All we are asking that stores do is provide the same information that the federal government mandates.
U.S. and Canadian governments have long required companies to include a message in their phone or manual. But just try finding it.
Control center? I can't find it, I'm going to be honest.
So what does it mean? The distance from the body depends on how it was tested to make sure you're not exposed to radiation levels above the safety limit. To find out more, we take some top-selling phones to a lab.
The lab we're going to is one of many that's hired to test and certify the phones before they're allowed out on the market.
Okay, so this is where we do the body measurements, is on the flat Phantom.
The testing guidelines allow phones to be tested up to 15 millimeters, that's a full 1.5 centimeters, away from the body. Those rules were devised back when many people carried their phones in holsters. So what happens when phones are tested the way you actually wear them?
We'll roll this thing all the way up until it touches.
The results are in. When moved right against the body, the radiation absorbed surpassed the safety limit. In response, the manufacturers of the phones say their products meet government safety guidelines. Health Canada adds the limits include a wide safety margin to ensure radiation exposure stays far below the threshold of harm.
It's kind of scary. I don't think I'll carry it the same way I have been.
No, I'm a little bit worried.
Deborah Davis is an epidemiologist, one of many scientists asking for change.
The system is out of date.
Her big concern is not just distance, but that science now shows possible harm at levels below the ones the government sets. For example, last year's $25 million study on rats by the U.S. government, their largest ever.
The scientists running the study thought it would find nothing. They were astonished when they showed this increase in highly malignant, aggressive tumors of the brain and the heart.
Canadian groups have been urging Health Canada to reassess those safety limits too.
We're stuck in this quagmire of believing the science that's decades old.
Frank Clegg's an engineer and the former president of Microsoft Canada. Now he heads a group advocating for safer use of technology.
There are dozens and dozens of studies that we presented to Health Canada that show harm at levels below Canada's guidelines.
A couple of years ago, the government agreed to a review. Clegg's group submitted over 200 studies, research on humans and animals, suggesting potential harm. Everything from behavior changes to DNA damage and sperm abnormalities, all at radiation levels below what phones are tested for. Health Canada concluded the totality of the science does not support a link to harm.
So how do you explain that?
Health Canada's track record is atrocious. How long did it take to figure out tobacco?
We asked to speak with Health Minister Jane Philpott, but she declined our requests. We took our questions to Paul Demers, who was asked to review the science on cell phones for Health Canada.
So what is your bottom line then? Are the way that we use cell phones now, are we safe?
Well, I believe we are. The fact is we don't have, at least when I looked at the evidence last, we don't have the evidence to say that there are adverse health effects. There are other scientists that I respect who are more convinced.
So I think there's an opportunity for Canada to be among the leaders in the world, like Berkeley, California, to get the manufacturers' warnings out to say, look, be careful how you use the technology.
The science may not be clear, but it does seem clear that a lot of Canadians are not getting the information the government thinks they should have. Wendy Mesley, CBC News, Berkeley, California.
So it is not only the frequency range within which the 5G network will function, but it is also the functioning of the phone itself. And with most keeping the phone directly against their bodies, in close proximity to their reproductive organs, it may not take a rocket scientist to figure out that there will be damaging effects upon the reproductive health of many humans, which lends evidence towards a darker agenda being carried out by the global cabal. Although things are changing rapidly and there are increasing signs that this global cabal is being taken down before our eyes, it is important to at least be aware of some of the final tricks that this very desperate group of poor souls are attempting to do to humanity. Knowledge is power, and thus, with this information, perhaps people can begin to become more informed and also begin holding politicians and companies accountable for their actions. Finally, in health-related news, this week, as we begin to move beyond the energies that used to define relations and begin expanding into a higher awareness as it relates to relations, we look at several articles relating more specifically to women. The current status in the world has caused both men and women to not only doubt themselves, but also those whom they may be interested in. An article appearing on the Minds.com website explores 12 things that women do unconsciously when they have been hurt too many times. The article notes the 12 things women do as being the following. We, referring to women, doubt everything, including the intentions of the guy who shows interest in us. We never have anything good to say. Even if a guy is seemingly perfect, we are always looking for a catch to save ourselves from trouble. We accept sadness. All the heartbreaks and ignorant behavior of men we loved has left us perpetually sad. We don't allow happiness to set camp in our minds and bodies anymore and are comparatively better at coping with sadness than we used to be before all the heartbreaks. Romance looks funny to us. Our secrets are ours. Expectations and then disappointments have left us so hopeless of any meaningful relations that we decide to keep some things to ourselves so that no one is able to use it against us. We crush big time. We mostly crush on men we can never get because we know that we will never be with them, and that is one good way to stay away from getting our hearts broken again. We play and ruin. Due to having abandonment issues, we abandon people before they abandon us in order to prevent any more pain. In order to not be ignored, we ignore first. We play games like this to protect our hearts, and these games ruin things for us. We play with and ruin the wrong people. Love becomes a joke. We start treating love like a joke and stop thinking seriously about it because that is what it has been made for us. Failing more than once often takes all our hopes down, and there is no one to blame for it except the people who failed us. We become the flirting kind. We flirt and fool around with more than one man because staying with just one man means giving him the power to hurt us. We jump back in the dirt willingly. We have become so used to pain that we get high on it now. We are already so messed up. What worse can happen? Love stories make us cringe. Love stories are just too fictitious for our taste now. Not only do we laugh at them, but they make us cringe big time. But number 12, we secretly, very secretly hope. Despite being hopeless and rotten at the heart, we secretly hope for things to get better because, after all, we are humans who need love and attention. We might get the latter, but love is hard to get, and we are not giving up at life yet. We hope someone heals all our wounds. As one begins to observe the patterns in one's life and perhaps begins to see how one has been taken off her or his life path, one can also begin to see that the partners he or she is attracting are directly related to the energies that are present within oneself. If one is on a life path that makes an individual unhappy, the odds are less that one will find a suitable partner to have a healthy relation with. If, however, one is able to recognize that good angel who has appeared to help someone find his or her way back, and if that same individual is ready, willing, and able to do the self-work and self-healing to use that relation for positive healing, then it may be possible for one, and possibly both people involved, to find their way towards a healthy relation and healthy service to humanity and the planet. Of course, everyone has their own advice about what others need. People love to think that they know the life paths of others, their pains, their challenges, and their opportunities. Each soul has a specific set of life path experiences for one's spiritual growth. So some of this information requires discernment. What may not be right for one person, hearing this right now, may change next week or next month after someone has had the courage to reflect on the information shared. Emily Higgins, in an article appearing on themindsjourney.com, shares her insights about the kind of guy a woman should wait for. Here are a few examples. She writes, "Wait for the guy who reaches for your hand on the street and holds it proudly. Wait for the guy who almost always places his hand on your thigh, in the cab, on the train, on the couch, under the table at a restaurant. A simple gesture communicating everything. Wait for the guy who makes the silence comfortable, who builds your confidence. Wear the shoes. Who is passionate and takes his job seriously, yet still makes you a priority. Wait for the guy who makes you laugh, genuinely laugh. Wait for the guy who introduces you to friends and family with no fear. Wait for the guy who never stops trying. Pizzas with half pepperoni, home-cooked meals eaten at the kitchen table, spur-of-the-moment dinner plans, flowers, just because flowers, wine pit stops on the walk home after dinner, framed pictures, handwritten notes. Wait for the guy who will continually put in the effort with your friends and family, knowing just how important they are to you. Wait for the guy who never tires of forehead kisses. In the morning when your eyes are still closed. At night before he inevitably falls asleep and turns to his side. Wait for the guy who shows up, no matter what, who talks about your future without question. Wait for the guy who makes you smile because you knew through every bad date and lonely cab ride home, every ignored text message, and every heartbreak, that patience and hope would lead you right to where you are right now. The irony is, of course, that there are guys out there who think, feel, and dream of being this kind of man for a woman, but these are the nice guys who often get discarded because many women have been socialized to reject nice guys. I will include in this week's Health Story an article about why nice guys stay single. Catherine Hogan shares an article on why nice guys stay in this single state. According to Hogan, nice guys will not get girlfriends, and if they do, it's likely to be shallow, unfulfilling, and short-lived. Hogan writes, that's because nice is what you do when you're scared to be who you really are. It also separates us from the real, authentic experience we're having in every moment. It gives us an excuse not to share that authentic experience with the people who are experiencing it with us, because it's preset and default. It's autopilot. It's a way for us to cop out. Nice is a way to momentarily disown the dirty, ugly parts of ourselves that we are so afraid others will see. To Hogan, being nice means denying the shadow within us. To be honest, I'm not sure if I personally agree 100% with this article. Yes, maybe being nice is hiding a shadow. However, society has socialized men into being the macho alpha male type, and although alpha men have the confidence to be jerks in front of women, and women fall for it, there are also men who are genuinely nice, but who are also waiting for that genuinely wonderful woman whom they can trust to share their vulnerability with, without being judged or criticized. An article on the David Wolf website offers 8 signs that a woman has found a true gentleman. The article offers the following. Number 1, his intentions are good. A gentleman may not always say or do the right things. He may not always succeed, but he tries, and that's what counts. A gentleman's primary goal in life is to leave the world a better place than he found it. Number 2, he respects the needs of others. Maybe your need in a relationship isn't to be pampered with chivalrous gestures, but rather to maintain a healthy degree of independence. A true gentleman will respect that, and he will respect the needs of everyone else. Number 3, he takes care of himself. A true gentleman sees the value in life itself. That can be seen in the way he takes care of not only his appearance, but also his physical and mental health. He will undoubtedly encourage you to do the same. Number 4, he knows where he stands, and he respectfully sticks to it. A gentleman is able to display confidence without being arrogant. He knows what he believes in, and he's not afraid to say and act in accordance with it. He can be self-sufficient. Number 5, when dating a gentleman, you never get the impression that he expects you to be like a mother to him, coddling him and taking care of his every need. Number 6, he makes you a priority in his life. Number 7, he has self-control. Even in the most heated of arguments, a true gentleman will never make you fear for your own physical safety because you know he has a firm grip on himself and his emotions. And number 8, he is thankful. Lastly, a true gentleman knows that no matter what his position in life, he is fortunate in one way or another. That is at the root of his kindness and loving demeanor. He sees the world around him not as something out to get him, but as something that, though flawed, contains a great deal of beauty and happiness. He doesn't expect anyone to look up to his moral standard or change his or her views to match his, but he will not go along with things that contradict his core beliefs. An article by Alex Jean Ecton speaks to every girl who has ever lost herself to a toxic man. The author goes through a laundry list of items about how she dated a man who did this or did that. What she closes with in the article, however, is a bit more profound. She writes, "I dated someone who made me stronger. Because I left him, I feel even more empowered than ever. Because I left him, I remember what it's like to be the girl who is always smiling, but I remember the person who took that away. Because I left him, I got my quirky sense of humor back. Because I left him, I have met so many people that admire me for who I am and don't knock me down for it. And never again will I tolerate someone who does. Because I left him, I know what it feels like to be truly loved. Because it was in leaving him I learned to love myself again." In an article for women to help them learn how to open up to love, Renee Wade offers some advanced steps for an open woman by inviting women to ask themselves these 4 questions. Number 1, what is my decision not to open up costing me right now? Number 2, what is my lack of openness costing my relationship? Number 3, what has my refusal to open up cost me in the past? And number 4, what is something positive about my refusal to open up in the past? In what ways has this served me well? Wade then asks women to focus on the positives of your lack of openness and apply this positive aspect to your decision to be open instead. For example, you can, conversely, show your care, trust, and faith for others by being open, especially your man, but you have to know this. For example, if you didn't open up in order to protect yourself from somebody who was hurting you, know that it's okay to close up to those who aren't worthy of your trust, but it's your responsibility to open up to those who are worth it. You can still choose to close down to people who have bad intentions. Finally, Wade asks women, do you have the courage and strength to open to your man so as to allow him more incredible bliss, ecstasy, and happiness than he has ever had the privilege to experience by being with you? In learning to love oneself again, can a woman begin to find a balance between the woman she has become and the woman she needs to be in order to find a meaningful, trusting, and loving relation with a good man? We're entering a transitional phase where the socialized values that have corrupted human relations are beginning to cause men and women to reevaluate what it is that they have been conditioned to want, while discovering what it is that one really wants and how to find the balance between men and women who see the game that has been played on humanity, while also seeking the courage to transcend it by acting in ways that may still be considered untraditional by today's current standard. Part of the trick to resolving this question comes down to one's ability to love oneself and to make the choices that will make a woman happier on her life path. If she is choosing activities and careers that suit her joys and passions in life, she is more likely to put herself into places of meeting men who share a similar vibration. With good hearts and an honest intention, women can find men who will publicly support her independence and her goals, while also savoring the loving vulnerability that comes from two people committed to lifting each other up to their highest potential, while also sharing the unconditional love that can accept the darkness of one's partner and perhaps even transform and heal each other. All links will be in the show summary for this story. If more articles about women come across my path, I may add them to the Evolving Relations page on the CVN homepage, or I may consider a follow-up to this particular segment. One announcement for listeners this week. For those of you who may not have noticed yet, I've made a few changes to the homepage for CVN. A few of the pages that I have not updated for a long time have been removed, and I have instead replaced them with pages of new information. One page deals with the issue of peace education, and this page reflects on the failure of peace education to really contribute to meaningful peace in our world. In the 12 years since leaving the University for Peace, I have not seen anything meaningfully contributing to global peace. This is, of course, because all the people claiming to work for global peace are doing it to maintain their salaries, their reputations, their perks and privileges, and also to have the glory of being recognized as one allegedly working for peace. The paradox is that they are claiming to work for peace, but are doing so from within the very same paradigm that profits from a lack of peace in the world. Therefore, I have decided that it is time to call out the people and the institutions claiming to work for peace, and I challenged them to a very serious self-reflection on what it is that they are claiming to work for. Another page contains the series of reports that I have been offering on relations. After the series of reports is finished, I will try to keep adding future articles that cross my path, so people will have something to reflect upon and hopefully use in healing and nurturing their current or future relations. The third page is dedicated to the many, many articles that have begun crossing my path relating to the benefits of cannabis and hemp. Over the coming months, I hope to offer more articles and videos, as well as a few personal interviews that I hope to do once I am more settled in my current location. It is my creation that this Cannabis Hemp page will become a location where many will come to find a wide range of articles on this subject, so one can become more fully informed on a subject that has been forcibly suppressed by governments, big pharma, and groups that stand to lose by the legalization of a plant that has proven health and healing properties. You are invited to visit any or all of those pages if any of the material is of interest to you personally. In this week's final words, I would like to continue on a little bit with the issue of relations, but more specifically I would like to share and comment on an article that relates more to healing the inner child within oneself. As the series on relations has progressed, we've begun to explore the nature of energy and how it affects relations between people. As I have been reporting, the competition for human energy is really the root cause of all conflict in the world. People develop their own strategies for getting their energetic needs met in situations where this energy is not freely given. Eckhart Tolle calls them pain bodies, and James Redfield calls them control dramas. Everyone learns these strategies from birth. When a baby is hungry or needs a diaper changed, the infant will cry. Usually, this is enough to get the attention of a parent. As the child gets older, the child will naturally start asking questions, and often this will become so many questions that a parent may get tired. The parent will use the dramas they learned from patterns in their lives and will use them on their children. In response, the children will develop their own drama reactions to the drama reactions of their parents, their friends, and others in their family or their workplace. What many humans also do, however, is carry many of their childhood traumas and negative experiences with them. For example, in next week's story on relations, I'm planning at this time on mentioning a specific article about men and how we are dying without physical touch. Our world has been socialized to ostracize men more and more while creating as much fear as possible to keep people from connecting physically, even if it is only as friends. If a man looks at the wrong woman the wrong way, he may be judged as sexually inappropriate or as sexually harassing a woman. If a man bends down to put a hand on the shoulder of a child or to give the child a hug, The man is risking being labeled as a pedophile. Even within a traditional family, it seems that there is only a certain age where society seems to accept physical contact between a male parent and his son or daughter. Beyond that age, it starts to cause alarm in some people as being inappropriate. This lack of contact has caused grave harm within men and has contributed to why men behave the way they do, and why it is important for a strong woman to not only allow her husband or partner to be the man in certain situations, but also to receive much-needed healing in finding a safe harbor where the man knows he can be nurtured to a certain degree without it becoming a compulsive neediness. Every human, to some degree, needs to heal the inner child. An article by Casey McDonald, appearing on the mindsjournal.com website, explores reasons why healing one's inner child is crucial for self-growth. According to McDonald, the inner child is the little person inside of you that witnessed, experienced, and was challenged by the surroundings you grew up in. Wounds that were never healed from childhood linger dormant inside our inner child until our shadows forge forward from the past. We are taught from a young age that it is not acceptable to feel, that one must push those emotions of hurt, pain, and sorrow deep inside, slap a smile on their faces, and act normal. The author then offers that normal becomes everything that someone taught you to believe. So is that truly normal? McDonald then asks, could it be a facade you were supposed to wear to be considered strong in a world that is not foundationally strong? We all have a fear factor, and it comes from the inner child in each of us. The article continues, we believe by suppressing the experiences of our past, we can become this strong force. But in essence, it is destroying all of us at our core. Healing the inner child is how you begin to truly grow in relationships, with friends, and in business. There will always be an instance when you will become challenged by your past pain, but this is where the healing begins, taking your own power back. The inner child walks inside the walls of our adult human form and shies, cries, and hides from the world, waiting to be recognized. Everybody's past comes forth through memories. You grow by letting go. Change is inevitable, and as you embrace the seasons of your heart, you free the ties to the child deep inside. Our manufactured society does not allow parents the time or the energy to properly devote to their children, so the children are emotionally and physically starved. They, in turn, grow up to be adults who do not know how to properly act in a relation with another. How might one begin to heal one's inner child? McDonald writes the following. Start creating time for yourself to heal, grow, and love. You have to start within yourself in order to allow bliss to flow naturally. People have a better chance in relationships and life only if they can learn to understand themselves to the best of their abilities. Try allowing yourself to refrain from all the fragmented distractions which keep us from creating our focus. By learning to balance your time, you can further develop your inner child. To answer the question of what is needed to create a healthy space for your inner child, the article adds that proper self-love, identification of past wounds, and situational healing. We have natural mirrors around us every day. The people that you see, they can help you heal. With a time, focus, attention, and discovery, you can start to unfold the layers of the past that no longer serve you. By taking the time to get to know yourself truly, you experience your inner child. Then, and only then, can you begin to heal it. Walking in the shadows of your hearts should not be a place to live, but a place where you can truly learn, love, and grow. We all have been hurt at one time or another. How you heal from your previous wounds determines your self-development. Don't be shy about your inner child. It needs the same amount of attention as the cell phone you check every hour, if not more. The patterns are complacent and need new data to heal. Beginning to heal the inner child, according to MacDonald, means creating communities of people that build each other up, loving all the sides of each human being in your life by accepting the process of healing and growth. We don't talk about this because it is like taboo. In the past, you would have been outcasted to the fringes of society had this topic arose. But people, this is the 21st century, and it is time to change the pace, writes MacDonald. If your inner child is in pain and one is unhappy with one's current environment, change the environment. The article closes with the following. It has options, and you are only chained to those options as long as you believe in the story that your inner child is telling you. Wake up. It's time to get real with ourselves and question everything. When you start to make the change, you will see how much your inner child was waiting to be set free. Fly people. We are only as poisoned as we believe, writes MacDonald. We've been conditioned to live in fear and in separation, and this separation also includes physical contact that is not sexual, but also very important and very necessary. Although this is work that really can only be done individually, it certainly does help to have a trusting and loving partner who embraces and accepts the darkness and the inner child of one's partner unconditionally. And together, both can uplift and heal the other for the benefit of both individuals, for the benefit of the relation between the two, but this also helps to heal the higher consciousness of humanity and the planet. Create a wonderful week until our next Moment of Now. So that is a sample of the unfolding higher consciousness news around the world this week. Cosmic Vision News is broadcast weekly from the CosmicVisionNews.com website. Links to stories used in this broadcast are published in the show summary available on the website. CVN can be followed through Facebook, Minds.com, Unseen.com, the CVN YouTube channel, as well as on Twitter, Google+, and LinkedIn. Thank you for sharing your time with me. I'm Jeffrey West, reminding you that if you don't make peace with your past, it will keep showing up in your present. Until our next Moment of Now, stay grounded in love, hold the vision of light and peace in your hearts, and keep your eyes to the skies. Disclosure is unfolding all around you. Namaste.